The attack is proof that the promise is near. We're going to get into it. Hi, I'm Joe. Welcome back. This is the Ultimate Love Letter. Thank you for joining the conversation. What I'm about to say is not meant to scare you, although it is meant to prepare you, meant to encourage you. If you find yourself in a deeply testing season, the push that you're feeling from the enemy is simply proof that the promise is just around the bend. Don't panic. Just prepare. And when I mean prepare, I mean simply observe. Observe what's really happening in spiritual realm. You are close to the promise. The destiny is just beyond this, and it is his sole mission to prevent you from achieving it. Don't allow him. Don't become distracted, and don't back down from the work that you're doing. You are pressure, and he only attacks things that are of value. So understand what is really happening. It is your confirmation that greatness is closer than you know. He knows how close it is. God knows how close it is. And sometimes it is kept from us. It is not revealed, but there will be signs. And the signs may come, most likely they will come as daggers from the unclean one, simply trying to knock you off your game. Stand firm. I'm in my own life. This conversation was inspired just on where I find myself today. I haven't shared this yet on Tull, but after a couple attacks, I said, you know what, I know, God, you want me to speak about this. So a couple weeks ago, I was riding my bicycle, and I will say God had been telling me weeks earlier to wear a helmet. He was showing me signs that I needed to wear a helmet. I never do, because I'm just biking in my neighborhood. The clients that I see are in my neighborhood. My doctors are in my neighborhood. My dentist is in my neighborhood. Everything I do is right here. So in my head, I'm just going for a little stroll. Yeah, well, a lot can happen on a 15-minute stroll. So as I was biking without my helmet, I was actually hit by a motorcyclist. Like, we T-boned. And I went flying off my bike. Now, what is so interesting is I landed so angelically. It's almost as if there was a cushioning underneath me to cushion my blow. And immediately when I landed on the ground, I was in shock that I was okay, that I was conscious. My head didn't hit the pavement. I was actually more shocked in the fact that I was okay than in the initial accident. As I turned around to grab the hand of who I knew was going to be standing there, the motorcyclist, right? Like reaching to make sure I'm okay. I was met with another shock. No one was there when I turned around. The motorcyclist ran. And that was shocking. I couldn't believe that someone would leave an earth angel behind. And immediately I was just more floored by, oh my goodness, the karma that is coming to this gentleman. Like, had he stopped for a moment just to check in, and that would have been all it took, I would have been able to tell him, I am okay. But there was no one there to explain that to. So he went off to receive his karma whenever God says fit. None of my business. I immediately jumped back on my bike and carried on. Now, I was shocked by, yes, I was completely okay. I was shocked by, yes, my bike was okay. And I was shocked by, yes, it was a clear attack of something trying to take me out. And I know exactly what that thing is, and I know exactly why. It is because I am doing God's work. So it would have been nothing for me just to accept that attack and think, you know what, this is just, an attack that comes. It's just an accident. It's a simple accident, right? The bike pulled out in the driveway. He didn't see that I was passing the driveway. You're okay. It was just an accident of human error. But no, I understand what's happening deeper. I understand that something wants to prevent me from believing in God, and in so prevent me from believing God's promises over my life. And I refuse to allow that to happen. God says to keep our eyes on Him, be steadfast in Him, and allow Him to fight our battles. And so as I picked myself up off that ground from that accident, I thought, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to allow God to fight my battles. So as I went on, in deep gratitude that I was okay, the following week, I woke up in the morning just getting my coffee, about to spend time with God. And I was doing something again that perhaps I shouldn't have been doing. I got an itch on the inside of my ear. And so as I was going to light my incense, I always burn an incense. I do a burnt offering up to God. As I was getting ready to burn my incense, I just used the end of the incense to scratch the inside of my ear. Do you know that incense was shoved so far in my ear? It was shocking. I have never had an object go so far in my ear. Now, yes, here again, it could certainly look like just human error. Again, I'm scratching and I went too far. But no, I was scratching. And as I turned to do something else, that the end of the incense shoved violently in my ear. Another attack. There is some sort of undercurrent to a violent essence to the things that have been happening. Yes, with the accident, with the motorcycle accident, and yes, with the incense being shoved in my ear. There was just if you're not paying attention and if you don't understand spiritual warfare, you might miss it. You might think it's random, but I can sense the undercurrent of violence that exists underneath it. And I got the sensation by how, again, shockingly it was, just like how shockingly it was when I hit that motorcyclist. So I immediately, and it was painful when that incident went in my ear, and I thought, okay, God, another attack. And so it was so painful that I found myself at my doctor's office. Now, again, God came through. Because as the doctor was looking in my ear, he says, you know what? The drum was unruptured. Although I can see some irritation around the opening to your canal. And yes, clearly there has been some pressure there. So I'm going to give you drops. Then we're going to do air lavage, but that will come in a few weeks. I want to let the trauma to kind of just relax in your ear. But good news is my eardrum is fine. Another attack that I survived. Just yesterday, which is the reason why it sparked this conversation. I just knew, you know what, third time's a charm. Got to talk about it. Just yesterday, I am done with grounding, done with my time with God, and now I'm in the patio simply, installing things, hammering things. And as I went to use a step stool, as soon as I was on top of that step stool came flying from underneath me. And I went flying in the air. Now, I was actually on top of a step stool, on top of steps, meaning the devastation of falling off the step stool, but then what could have been me falling down a flight of steps should have been profound, should have been great, right? And as I was literally flying in the air, I was yelling out to God and I was saying, God, He is trying to kill me. And I again landed so angelically. God says when we are following Him, when we are doing His work, no harm shall befall on us. None. I was T-boned by a motorcyclist with no helmet and flew off my bike. I should have been gravely ill, damaged, hit, trauma, injured, but yet I landed like a feather. Something violently shoved this sharp foreign object in my ear. A lot of damage should have been done, although very little was done. I was left unharmed. I went flying off of a step stool on top of steps. I should have went tumbling all the way down, and yet I landed like on a pillow. That is all God fighting my battles. At the same time, yes, God allows the attacks for several reasons. He's using it for our testimony. This testimony right here for me to encourage whoever may be dealing with something similar. He's also giving me signs of, yes, spiritual warfare is real. I already knew that. He didn't need to prove it. But also He's given me signs of how He is going to fight my battles. And all it's showing me is where God is taking me is right around the bend. I have been doing nothing but hunker down, focused in on all the work God is calling for me to do. And now, as I'm getting ready to birth something new, and I cannot wait to share what this is, of course, the attacks double down. But that's only because that's His job. Everything here has its perfect purpose, including that unclean spirit. His purpose is to win more souls for His side. And the reality is, He actually has more souls on His side. That's just the reality. But in the end, God will absolutely prevail. God will for certain be the victor. Nothing, absolutely nothing will win and prevail over the Most High. So as we're doing God's work and these attacks come, just know you're on the right track. If, on the other hand, if you find yourself never going through any type of discomfort, any type of spiritual warfare, then perhaps it's because you are lukewarm. You are not doing much for God. And as we are not doing much for God, then we can't really achieve much. We will certainly never achieve anything great worth having because we're still on the fence, because we're still lukewarm, because perhaps we're too afraid to step in. No, friend. That thing will rise up. Yes. He will make things uncomfortable. Yes. Because he doesn't attack what's not valuable. He attacks what's pressure. So when the attacks come, know that you are on the right track. I'm going to leave you with one more word. Keep going. If God is saying he is all around you, hold that close. If God is saying no harm will come close to you, believe that as certainty. And as you absorb that as truth, then you're able to move freely, simply doing the work that God has for you to do, unbothered on whatever adversities might come. Adversities will come, but remember what God said. God said, nothing will harm you. Nothing. Just last night, and now this shook me up, like all of them, but this shook me up. But I'm standing in my authority. I was recording a reel, and I was certainly speaking about the unclean one. And as I was recording the reel, it took several takes, right? Want to make sure I get my script down. But maybe on like the fourth take, I was just talking about how Satan presses because you're pressure. And immediately my phone legit flew off the table. Again, in this forceful, kind of violent undercurrent. And now the camera was rolling, so I have that. And I actually went back today and I listened to it, and it sounded even more violent on tape than I remember it in reality. But it was a violent, almost go F yourself type of violence. And as I get a little stunned. I got a little stunned, but I didn't stop the camera rolling. I didn't stop doing the work that God had me. I'm standing firm because I know as God allows these things to come against us, it's because God has said, I have prepared you enough to go straight through it. So I continued on the work that God had. Understanding that, that thing might be in my presence, but I'm surrounded by God's presence. I'm surrounded by an army of angels. There's nothing that can touch me when I'm doing God's work. In fact, everything is protecting me when I'm standing in that authority. So, no coincidence, I was led to give you this message to encourage you wherever you find yourself. Maybe you're dealing with an attack on your health, attack in your marriage, attack in your finances, attack with your children, attack at work and in your business, attack at home. Keep your eyes on God, because God says he can and he will protect us when we're following him. Go shelter yourself under the wings of God, where nothing can touch you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much to all of our 1,000 plus YouTube subscribers. If you haven't yet found us on YouTube, please make sure you find us there, and make sure that you give this message a thumbs up, that you share it, comment on it, comment down below. It makes our podcast more recognizable. Also, I want to turn your attention to our book, Fake Ass Vegan, a book on balance, that is available on Amazon. If you haven't checked this out, make sure you grab your copy and come back and review it on Amazon as well. Lastly, but not least, I have a couple of links. If you're being led to support this mission, I have links available for you to do so in our show notes. I am praying over every single offering that God expands your territory. Thank you for being a part of our mastermind. It's you, it's me, it's God. Until next time, love yourself and love others. We'll chat again real soon. Bye for now.